Was attacked and beaten early this morning in Chicago.
This is horrible to report.
Two suspects who were apparently wearing Make America Great Again hats.
I'm disgusted by people who wear hats that say MAGA, Make America Great Again. I don't like that it's being put out there in the media that this is a possible...
I'm a hater because I can't relate to gay pride.
blames
Call me
Vice President
homophobic
Mike
because I
Pence.
don't want to date guys K-type. I for one am not surprised the world declined along the way. Give trophies to children for losing just because they decide to play. We exercise our right to vote and hate the politicians.
GQ magazine
This is a
added,
democracy.
quote,
It's
the
partly your
racist,
decision.
homophobic
This
attack
is
on
weird.
Jussie
Feels like this is a
Smollett
different
is
year.
far-right America's endgame.
I didn't answer. I kept walking, and then I heard Empire. So I turned around and I said, "The did you just say to me?" And I see the attacker masked, and he said, "This MAGA country," punches me right in the face. So I punched his ass back. And then we started tussling. You know, it was very icy, and we ended up tussling by the stairs. Fighting. There was a second person involved who was kicking me in my back. And then it just stopped.
Jussie Smollett in custody and under arrest just minutes ago. Police released his mugshot. Here it is. In just a short time from now, he'll be in front of a judge for a bond hearing. Investigators say he is no victim and that his story is now unraveling.
From alleged victim to suspected criminal, today Jussie Smollett faces a felony charge of disorderly conduct after detectives in Chicago say he filed a false police report. The bombshell turn of events comes 3 weeks after Smollett told investigators he was the victim of a race-based homophobic hate crime.
They called me They called me There's no which way you cut it.
The two men who police say staged the attack testified for 2.5 hours before a grand jury Wednesday. Ola and Abel Osundairo, who were first identified in this surveillance photo, knew Smollett from his hit show Empire, but after their arrest, began cooperating with police. They do not face charges.
And this is America in 2019.
Indeed, it was 2019, and Jussie got his ass busted for being a greedy bastard. All for fame and glory and more airtime. What a shame. Hey guys, I'm Mike as usual, and today I'm gonna be throwing your way a bunch of fake hate crimes that you may or may not have heard about. So if y'alls are ready, let's go.
This morning, 3 college students under fire for what's seen in the surveillance video.
Hi, yes, I'd like to report the fact that me and my friends were just jumped on a bus for being black.
Just after 1 a.m. on January 30th, Ariella Gudio, Alexis Briggs, and Aisha Burwell, all 20-year-old college students at the University at Albany, claiming they were the only black students on a city bus when they were called racial slurs and hit by several white males. They say they were surrounded by students and felt threatened. They fought back. 2 of the girls called 911.
It was a racially fueled crime. We were 3 black girls jumped by like 20 white people.
University staff and students immediately rallying behind the girls. But within hours of that rally, an Instagram video posted online showing what looks like the girls approaching the men first. The university and city immediately launching an investigation.
I ask all of us to not rush to judgment.
Leading to the release of this surveillance video from inside the bus that night, witnesses on board telling police it wasn't the men, but the women who were the aggressors.
It definitely looks like it wasn't what the girl said it was that happened, and actually it looks like the opposite.
They made their initial report nearly a month ago. Since then, community leaders like Carolyn McLaughlin have seen all the clips from different angles.
The words that were passed, it seemed that the conversation that started the whole thing was initiated by the girls.
Now that the charges have been revealed, Carolyn believes the damage has been done.
There's no excuse for it. None.
So after all that, what was their punishment? 3 years probation and 200 hours community service. And of course, no apologies to the white students from the dean.
Police say a Volusia County man faked a hate crime, set his girlfriend's car on fire, and then faked his own abduction to throw detectives off. For the Orlando Sentinel, I'm Kayla O'Brien. According to an arrest report, 27-year-old Vincent Palmer told detectives he taped a note with racial slurs and the words KKK and Trump written onto his ex-girlfriend's mailbox early Saturday. Palmer said he also threw a brick through her car window and doused her back seat with gasoline because the two were having problems over the custody of their children. Ormond Beach police say no one was injured in this incident but did arrest Palmer because he had a warrant out for child support charges. Records show he was booked into Volusia County Jail and then released later on bail. The next morning, Daytona Beach police say they were called to a possible abduction after one of Palmer's relatives found a bloody note saying, quote, "You will never see your grandson alive again," and quote, KKK. Officers found Palmer at a Burger King in Ormond Beach where he eventually confessed to his crimes. For more on this story, stay on OrlandoSentinel.com.
Black activist sends fake online threats to fellow activists. A New Jersey woman has been charged with making fake threats against black students at Keene University last month. The Union County Prosecutor's Office says Kayla Simone McKelvey took part in a rally on racial issues at Keene on November 17th. McKelvey then went to a computer station located in a campus library and posted anonymous threats on Twitter against black students. One of her anonymous tweets made a reference to a bomb, while another tweet talked about shooting black students. McKelvey then allegedly went back to the rally and tried to raise awareness about the threats. McKelvey, a black alum who graduated in May, is scheduled to appear in court in 2 weeks' time. The school released a statement saying it is saddened to find out a former student and rally participant was allegedly behind the threats.
I hate when they say crap like this. They're sad to find out that it was a fake hate crime, that the hate isn't actually real, that they can't blame white people for it, and that it was actually committed by a black person. Wow. Anyway, the next one is about a black girl who thought she wasn't getting enough attention, so she set her school on fire and blamed it on whitey.
A Viterbo University student is now under arrest for a fire Sunday morning in a residence hall. Victoria Unanka was arrested on charges of arson and mishandling of flammable objects. News 19 asked La Crosse police today about a possible motive.
The suspect in this, the person that was arrested, obviously is stating that, they didn't feel like they were being heard anymore. And so they intentionally set this fire.
Vandalizing the Cecil B. Moore mural in North Philadelphia. Police say he spray painted racial slurs on the mural earlier this month. He's also wanted for similar vandalism at a Habitat for Humanity office as well as a nearby school.
Former pro football player is accused of staging a hate-related burglary at his own restaurant in Georgia. Police say Edon Kaufman's restaurant was vandalized, spray painted on the walls there racial slurs, swastikas, and President Trump's slogan MAGA. Well, officers later arrested the 31-year-old after they found spray paint and a crowbar in his own truck. Kaufman was signed by 8 NFL teams, but he never played in a game.
She did it to herself, and Winsboro police say she lied. They say 20-year-old Sharmika Moffitt set herself on fire. KSLA News 12 was at a news conference when Louisiana State Police announced Moffitt's DNA was found on a bottle of lighter fluid and a lighter. They say she admitted to that, as well as writing KKK and a racial slur on her car. Social media was fired up thinking this was a racial attack.
12-year-old Amari Allen described in detail how 3 white boys allegedly attacked her and cut off her dreadlocks at school.
Boys came up to me and they ambushed me, sort of caged me in. And so they put their hands over my mouth, they put my hands behind my back, and they started cutting my hair and saying that it was ugly.
Now, Amari says none of it was true. The story drew global attention and widespread condemnation. It's not clear why Amari decided to make up her story, but her family put out this statement asking the community for forgiveness.
Last week, an Indian-owned store in Charlotte, North Carolina was set afire, a rock thrown through the window, and a racist note left behind. It read, quote, "We need to get rid of Muslims, Indians, and all immigrants." It was signed, White America. This week, police arrested an African-American man after surveillance video showed him lighting the fire. The FBI does not track fake hate or false flag crimes, making them nearly impossible to quantify.
There is a large number of cases, certainly dozens or hundreds a year, and have been for at least the past 30 years.
The website fakehatecrimes.org documents hundreds of such cases, with new ones occurring almost every week. Among them, last month Israeli police arrested a 19-year-old Israeli Jewish man as the primary suspect in hundreds of bomb threats against Jewish community centers in the U.S. In January, a black waitress in Virginia claimed a customer wrote on the receipt, quote, "Great service, don't tip black people."
Shocked. Very, very, very shocked.
The customer later maintained it was written by the waitress, who was upset over her 1-cent tip for bad service. And in December, an 18-year-old Muslim woman who claimed that 3 men attacked her on a New York subway and tried to pull off her hijab was charged with filing a false report. Author of Crying Wolf, Hate Crime Hoaxes in America, Laird Wilcox, says the campus focus on microaggressions and safe spaces is the perfect incubator to fake hate crimes.
This isn't just my opinion. This is really fairly widely recognized now. I would say 80% of events that occur on the campus are hoaxes or pranks.
Christine, right now Yasmin Seweid is inside the courtroom awaiting her arraignment. She is charged with filing a false police report. Police now believe the hate crime she said she was the victim of never actually happened.
They kept saying, "You don't belong here, get out of this country, go back to your country." And finally they came really close and they were like, "Take that rag off your head."
That was the account from 18-year-old Yasmin Seweid earlier this month when she claimed she was the victim of a hate crime, a verbal and physical assault on the 6 train near East 23rd Street and Park Avenue. That account now appears to have been completely made up. The young woman said she was approached by 3 drunk men who ripped the strap on her purse and tried to pull off her hijab.
They were surrounding me from behind and they were like, "Oh look, it's an effing terrorist."
Her story seemed to be just one more case among many similar reported assaults on Muslim women in recent weeks. Mysteriously, though, 1 week after she spoke out, police announced that Seweid was reported missing from her family's home in Nassau County. She reappeared on December 10th, but it's unclear where she was during that time. She was questioned again about the alleged hate crime she endured. This time, investigators say she confessed the story was a lie, something she made up to get out of a, quote, family problem.
Here you see her in court, her head shaved. It turns out that she, in fact, admitted to making up that story in order to get out of a family problem. She's been charged with filing a false report and obstruction.
Black dude fabricates white America hate crime. Curtis Dwight Florney is behind bars this week on allegations he tried to burn down a refugee's store and then blame it on white racists. Florney, a black man, allegedly targeted the Charlotte, North Carolina store in early April 2017. Police believe he left the Bhutanese owner this threatening letter, laced with prejudiced comments including, "Trump's is our nation builder for white America," and "We need to get rid of Muslims, Indians, and all immigrants," as well as threats of torture. And he could have gotten away with it too if it weren't for a nearby surveillance camera that captured the entire thing. The 32-year-old's been charged with writing the threatening letter, as well as for ethnic intimidation, arson, and felony breaking and entering.
As the North Buffalo man who claimed his car was vandalized with racist graffiti last month did it himself. Flynn says 18-year-old Clifton Yutzi spray painted the hate speech on his own car and poured sugar in the gas tank, and a neighbor reported it to police. Yutzi is charged with insurance fraud and filing a false report. We spoke with him last month, but did not air the interview while working to confirm details of the story when he talked about the response from the community.
Oh yeah, it makes me feel like there are good people in the world, even though bad people did that to my car.
Take another hit, bro.
Good that there are still good people out there.
Yeah, good
Well, the
people
DA
out there
says
like
there
you,
is
huh?
video evidence that led to the arrest, but he
racist.
would not elaborate on it. The charges Yutzi is facing could get him 7 years in prison if he's convicted.
A University of Michigan student who told police a man threatened to set her hijab on fire could be facing criminal charges. This after investigators say she made the whole thing up. A hijab is a veil or headscarf that's worn by Muslim women. The student, whose name has not been released, claimed the incident happened in Ann Arbor on November 11th. After a thorough investigation, police say the incident never happened. The alleged hate crime happened during a post-election increase in reports of racial intimidation.
case, local diversity expert has dealt with some racially motivated incidents within the past few years that have later turned out to be false. Now, in light of the national case, Kansas State University has dealt with some racially motivated incidents within the past few years that have later turned out to be false. Now, in light of the national case, local diversity experts say this activity has got to stop. Brian Samuel is K-State's Chief Diversity Officer. He says it's unfortunate when people make false reports.
We take these concerns seriously.
In November of 2017, pictures of a K-State student's car covered in racial slurs ignited outrage among students and members of the Manhattan community. The student eventually told the FBI he did it himself, but ultimately was not charged.
They happen all over the country. So,
unless you've been living under a rock for the last 100 years, I'm sure you've heard about the so-called driving while black scenario, where black people get pulled over and are racially profiled, and the white cop is abusive and threatening and calls them the N-word and yada yada yada. Well, a lot of those are just bullshit too, if you look into the story in the dash cam and body cam footage from the cop. Here are just a couple of those examples. The first one even involves a president for the local chapter of the NAACP lying out his ass.
New for you at 6, a serious claim from the Timmonsville NAACP president. On Facebook last month, he posted that he was racially profiled by a town police officer. However, a Florence community activist says the officer's body cam video doesn't match up with what the civil rights organization leader says happened.
How are you? This is body cam video from a traffic stop last month by a Timmonsville police officer. It shows the officer pulling over Timmonsville NAACP president Reverend Gerard Moultrie for a traffic violation and problems with his license plate. Moultrie posted about the encounter on Facebook back on April 13th that he was racially profiled because he was black, driving a Mercedes and heading home in his nice neighborhood. In the posting, Moultrie said he was asked if there were any drugs in the car. Moultrie says in the post, the officer told him he could have taken him to jail and was doing him a favor. But the body cam video shows a very pleasant conversation between Moultrie and the officer.
Don't believe it, man.
Florence community activist Timothy Waters requested a copy of the video from Timmonsville Police through Freedom of Information. Waters tells me he was misled until he saw the actual video.
Well, once I got a copy of that body cam, it's as if he made the whole story up. And I felt like he set us back 100 years.
State trooper accused of sexual assault. Now video clears him, and we're hearing calls for change. Thanks for joining us. I'm John McKay.
And I'm Cynthia Sayera. In this dash cam video from Ellis County, you see the arrest of Sharita Dixon Cole and a very different version of a story that's now gone viral.
Our Teresa Woodard has been following the story. So, Teresa, we don't usually see an attorney apologize for their client, but that has actually happened in this case.
It is rare to see, but it is also important to note that not everyone involved in this case has apologized. We are no longer naming the trooper involved because he's been cleared. He was publicly accused of a kidnapping and sexual assault that never happened.
All right, put down the phone. Put down the phone. How about the Texas Highway Patrol?
From the moment this Texas state trooper stopped Sharita Dixon Cole at 1:30 a.m. until he gave her a breathalyzer at 3:20 a.m., every interaction was recorded. The Department of Public Safety released almost 2 hours of footage from the trooper's body camera, which shows no proof of a sexual assault, no indication of any misconduct. Multiple field sobriety tests, removing 2 bottles of alcohol from her car, and spotting what he believes is an alcoholic drink in a cup holder. He arrested Dixon Cole and took her to the Ellis County Jail and chatted with her about her fiance, family, and job while doing paperwork. Within hours, now deleted Facebook post appeared from an attorney and social justice advocate Sean King, falsely accusing the trooper of kidnapping Dixon Cole, raping her, and tampering with evidence. The posts were shared more than 50,000 times. Yet according to the video, the trooper did nothing wrong.
I see an officer who conducts himself exactly as society demands police conduct themselves today, beyond reproach. And tragically, that officer still was publicly and maliciously persecuted. What happened to that officer is a shame.
Dixon Cole's attorney apologized in a written statement, saying he takes full responsibility. DPS said it is appalled that anyone would make such, quote, despicable, slanderous, and false accusations against a peace officer.
While attorney Lee Merritt did apologize, activist Sean King has not.
To hear that Talcum X did not apologize is no big shock to me. And the only reason I can think of that black people accuse white cops of doing this shit is just to generate more hatred towards cops and white people. That's it. I don't see any other reason to do it. If it was so rampant, they wouldn't feel the need to fake all this shit. It's on video. There's proof. And there are so many videos. I could make an hour-long video of this, but don't want to, be tedious and tire you guys out with this. Anyway, on to the next.
A server at a Texas steakhouse was shocked to find no tip and the message, "We don't tip terrorists," written on the receipt.
An Odessa, Texas waiter now says he lied about a customer leaving a receipt with a racist message. Waiter Khalil Cavill posted a picture of the receipt that said, "We don't tip terrorists," on a more than $100 tab with no tip. He then shared the story with a local reporter.
It was not about the money. It was never about the money. It's about shedding a light on an issue I feel very passionate about.
When first asked, the restaurant reportedly corroborated the story and said they banned the customers from eating there again. But Cavill now tells the Odessa American, the paper that first published the story, "I did write it. I don't have an explanation. I made a mistake. There is no excuse for what I did." However, he also explained that he hoped to spark a conversation about this hatred that is still going on. Cavill tells the paper he is returning the donations he received after sharing his story. The COO of Saltgrass, a restaurant chain, says the customer has been contacted and invited back to our restaurant to dine on us. Racism of any form is intolerable, and we will always act swiftly should it occur in any of our establishments. Falsely accusing someone of racism is equally disturbing.
I'll do one more, and this one really pisses me off because it involves two little kids. The girl is 11 and her little brother, and I'm sure her parents put her up to this because no kid's gonna think of shit like this on their own. Check this out.
Everyone took the schoolgirl's tale of a frightening attack on these streets very seriously. CBC News is no longer identifying her out of concern for her well-being, but here's what she described Friday.
I feel confused, scared, terrified.
Khawlah Noman's walk to school turned into a nightmare when she says a man came up behind her, pulled down the hood of her coat, and cut her hijab.
And I turned around and I saw him with his scissors, and he ran away.
But it wasn't over. Noman says she and her brother crossed the street to join a group of kids, but the man followed and cut her hijab again.
I felt scared and worried about my sister.
Media crammed into her school's library to hear from school board officials, police, and her mother.
I came to the school right away. I'm just so happy she's safe.
The story drew international attention and outrage. At a news conference on other matters, the Prime Minister expressed his concerns.
My heart goes out to the young girl who was attacked, seemingly for her religion.
Toronto police called it a hate crime and promised a thorough investigation. But by this morning, detectives had determined the girl's story was just that.
They sat down, they looked at all the evidence they had, and they reached the conclusion that what was said to have happened simply didn't happen.
In a statement today, the Prime Minister's office was thankful and relieved the attack didn't happen, but also appealed for real hate crimes to be taken extremely seriously. That's what Sabrina Ghaffar Siddiqui says she's hoping for. The hate crimes researcher warns against being distracted by this one false case. Just because this one particular story is not real, it doesn't mean that the other stories are not real. So let's not forget that we need to still work on, anti-Islamophobia and trying to combat anti-Muslim hate. She also worries about the young girl. I'm very afraid of the backlash she will receive and the community will receive further, because now people are going to be angry that, she lied. As for what happens next, police would only say the case is officially closed. Ron Charles, CBC News, Toronto.
The events on Friday simply didn't happen.
Well, very quickly, there was an online backlash against the 11-year-old girl, her family, and the wider Muslim community.
If you look now at the comments some comments are being made out there, you know, people are using this as examples, for instance, of, you know, communities playing the victim card, and I think that's really grossly unfair.
For writer and human rights advocate Amari Allen, the fact this crime wasn't real is cold comfort.
Hate crimes and hate incidents are a reality for far too many minority communities in this country, Muslim, Black communities, Jewish communities. Many communities, unfortunately, are suffering from various types of hate.
Well, it seems you accidentally forgot to mention a little group of people that also suffer from hate crime, their luscious muffin. White people. And how about the backlash that we get when people say that they've been attacked by Nazis or white supremacists and shit like that, and then there are payback attacks on innocent white people, you know, from blacks or Arabs or fucking whoever. Remember all this a Trayvon retaliation attacks on innocent white people? Yeah, there are a shitload of them. What about us? We get attacked too for doing fucking nothing. And then you people get up there and say, just because this one happens to be fake doesn't mean we should forget about all the real ones. Yeah, there's so many hate crimes out there going on that people feel the need to fake them. Right? Does that make any fucking sense? No, it doesn't. Anyway, I could go on and on and on. Go to fakehatecrimes.org. Here's the link. And there are just tons and tons of this stuff, man. It's ridiculous. Anyway, hope you got something out of it. I'm Mike. See you next time.
Got him! Got him!